Hi everyone, I'm Marianna from Growth Training Group, specialising in first aid and mental health first aid. That's what we're going to be talking today. All things compliance on the Prosperity Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place where coaches, consultants, leaders, and business owners come to fix real problems that are holding their teams back, and especially the ones that no KPI spreadsheet ever warns you about. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and I'm really excited for what we're about to engage in today. But obviously, if you've ever felt the pressure of keeping your workplace compliant while you're secretly knowing that your people don't really feel cared for or supported or safe, then you're in the right place, my friend, because on this show, this is where we're going to be bringing you the people, the stories, and the strategies that help you build organizations that thrive from the inside out. And I'm really excited to bring on our guest today, Marianna. Now, Marianna, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, Marianna Barba is the director of Growth Training Group, and she's an accredited mental health, a first aid instructor, a first aid trainer, and one of the only people I know who can walk into a room and suddenly everyone is a mini first aid demo without even planning it. So we're going to be learning a thing or two about what to do as a first responder or not, or the things that have actually made part of her journey. And honestly, if compliance had a personality and maybe a beating heart, I think it would be our guest today. So I'm really, really excited because we're going to be bridging the the gap between just ticking boxes and actually caring for people. And the journey we're going to be talking about today is one that stems from business development boardrooms that she used to sit in and training rooms that she now leads, and also a moment where one of her students used her skills that she had actually taught them to save a loved one's life. Now, isn't that a tale to be reckoned with? So if you're watching this from YouTube, Spotify, or any other platform, be sure to hit that subscribe button because you do not want to miss out on these types of conversations. Now, Marianna, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified to talk about. Tell us a little bit about your journey before Growth Training Group. You seem to be doing a lot of stuff in corporate and also business development, right?
Absolutely. Well, do you know what I mean? I've worked for some really amazing organisations. My first, I've worked with, I started off at Exxon and Esso. People don't probably remember some of these brands, but they were really strong brands a long time ago. And I started in fuel, which I have no qualifications in. And it's interesting where you start your journey and where you end. So if someone was to ask me, if someone said to me, oh, you know nothing about fuel, well, when I started, I didn't, and that's not the skill they hired me for. So it was about leading teams, and I got to learn from some amazing people, and it's sort of taken me through the fuel industry, the banking industry. So I've been really fortunate, and then decided that it was time to do it for myself. So, and sometimes opportunities come to you when you least expect it, and you've got to have the faith to take that leap and just do it. So, and that's I suppose what started my journey from being, very senior in corporate to then saying, it's time for me to do it for myself rather for other people. So that's where my journey as my own business started. And that started in managing a franchise group. And then from that, I think the thing for me is the people, right? I've always wanted to, help people get the best out of themselves. And that sort of got me working with franchisees and suppliers and sort of fell into the training space. So, that's like where we sort of ended up, 25, 30 years later. So here we are.
Fantastic. Congrats. Thank you so much for taking us through that. I mean, fuel, banking, these are the kind of industries that run a nation. You know what I mean? Fuel powers the the whole industry, and banking makes sure that, all transactions are made, looked after. Now, I mean, obviously, as you would have been growing up, I don't think any of these industries were part of what you wanted to do, considering, like you said, you went into it and sort of qualified and things like that. What was the aspiration? What did you want to be when you were growing up?
It's actually quite funny. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher, and I made a promise to my parents that I would just start this job while I'm waiting. Back then you had to wait a year to do your dip-ed. And I said, look, I'll go do this and then I'll do my teaching masters. But I sort of fell in love with it and never went back. So it was built on the back of a broken promise to be teaching. But isn't it ironical that I'm back teaching? It just dawned on me. I've just gone full circle to what I originally, just took me a really long time to get there. But I'm doing what I wanted to do in the beginning. So I just took a really convoluted road to that journey.
Absolutely. That's one very long year. It takes 25 years for 1 year to come back to teaching full circle and things of that nature. But you did say this sort of stemmed off of a promise. Was there an expectation for you to at least be or do or have something within the family ranks?
No, not really. I'm first generation Australian. So I am, I've been raised around, I've got really strong work ethic. You get in there, you get the job. If someone's got a problem, you just help them through it. I could tell you some really interesting stories about how families come together, to when they move countries, new culture, all of that. And, families are glues of our communities, right? So in one way, I think I'm actually quite blessed in that way because, it gave me a really strong work ethic. Like I like work. Like I don't run away from work. So the busier I am, the happier I am. But don't tell anyone.
Well, this is being recorded, Marianna. So whatever you're gonna say can and will be used against you on TikTok. So
Okay, we'll think about that one.
Absolutely. No. I mean, obviously, with that sort of frame of reference, like you obviously love work and things of that nature. But was there, some cultures or some families would have an expectation or some sort of cultural you would have to do, or some sort of career that was a requirement, whether not from the immediate family, but maybe onlookers that we think are watching?
Look, I don't think so. I think, there was an expectation that we would do better than our parents, because our parents didn't have much. So they poured resources into us and supported us through, really strong education. And their expectation was that we would, that we wouldn't take for granted this opportunity that they were given, right? All the sacrifices that they made, it wasn't in vain. So I think that is fundamentally what sort of drives me at the end of the day, is that, you know, a lot of people have made a lot of sacrifices for where we are today, and I'm actually quite grateful for it. So, but you know, so there's none of that pressure, but to be the best that you could be and find your space, whatever that might be.
Absolutely. So you obviously, in the fuel and the banking sort of industry, you were in corporate training, business development. What was the moment when you actually realized that, hang on, there's a lot of compliance that's happening within these corners, but nobody really cares?
Yeah, you know, when you're in both the fuel and the banking sector, a lot of compliance, right? A lot of compliance. Like, you know, there's regulators here, regulators there, and obviously organisations like that have lots of infrastructure to support that.
Right.
When I came out of that, and I was the rebel in corporate saying, this is ridiculous, you know, all this training, all this compliance, it's just over the top. When I moved into my own business and I didn't have that, it actually was the reverse of it. I found the security that comes with compliance, right? And the importance of it. So I wanted to take that message out to business owners to take that pressure off their plate.
Now, obviously, I mean, you're talking about the infrastructure that works within these sort of areas. I mean, fuel is a regulated commodity, and banking, obviously, people's money, super, and all that stuff is required. But you're also running a franchise group, which is also some sort of regulated environment in and of itself, because once you're in a franchise, you're locked into whatever the franchise does, and you're sort of working without, without the sort of creative freedom that anybody could ever be. So you've explained yourself as a rebel. How did you fit into these environments?
When you don't have that security, because I was running a franchise group, when you don't have it, you actually understand the importance of it, right? And so not having it, and I had to build it from scratch, I understood the value of it. And that's what sort of moved me from the franchise group to training. Is at the end of the day, business owners don't go into business for compliance, right? They go into business because they have a passion to build something, create a legacy, create a business. But the whole compliance is it leaves them scratching their head, because that's not what they signed up for. And that really spoke to me from a business perspective, because business owners, we wear so many hats. We're supposed to be masters of everything, and we simply can't be. So my role in this is, yes, we have to tick a box, but we have to give someone the skill set that they need in that space, right? So, the right skill set, because as employers, we are responsible for our staff. Their safety is paramount, and but that's not what we signed up for. We signed up to whatever business you want to be in, right? But we didn't sign up for the compliance. I've taken that on and given them the opportunity to do the compliance and for them to focus on what they're really good at. So I sort of help them manage that process, because I know they don't want to be doing it, but we need to do it, because the reason we have to have compliance is we have to protect our employees and we have to protect our customers.
But Marianna, you jumped off of a perfectly moving plane. I think your job was you had security and business development and everything else, and obviously all the credentials that you amassed while you were there. Were you not afraid when you jumped in and started doing things on your own?
You can be smothered by fear, or you can use that fear to look. Yeah, look, it was scary. I was like I had a great corporate life, but I think as entrepreneurs, there's something innate that we want that you can't get from corporate. And I know exactly where I was when I made that decision to take that leap. And it was a leap of faith because had not run a business before, had worked for corporate, but I took that leap of faith, right? You've got to believe in yourself, right? And it's okay to be scared. You just got to make sure you've got the right people around you to support you.
Fantastic. You see, the thing about corporate is you walk in, the floor is clean, your computer is updated with all the latest software, even the stapler has staples, and the coffee machine has the coffee beans in it because somebody has done that. Can you maybe walk us through what, obviously not necessarily day one, but what it was like when you sort of started and you were like, now you're fresh all on your own and everything lied on you showing up and being the person that delivered?
Look, it was probably so traumatic that I no longer remember. Look, I just got into it. Those first couple of years were really tough because I had to learn skill sets that in a previous life, there was a department that did that. I had to become the marketer. I had to become the finance department. I had to become the compliance department. I had to become everything. And I suppose I hadn't taken that into consideration when I first started. But you just got to do it. You don't work a 9-to-5 job when you run a business, right? You've got to go where the business takes you. So I don't know. We just sort of got in there and did it.
As somebody who aspired to be a teacher, and obviously the value of teaching other people, did you seek out other people that could have maybe held you accountable or showed you the ropes or things of that nature?
Look, there were the traditional ones that, you find a good accountant and you find a good, I looked for people who could complement my business and who could add value to my business. I was really curious, asked a lot of why questions, why do we have to have insurance, and why do we have to do BAS, and why do we just had to learn it, but had the right people around me to support me through that process. And, I think if I was to do it again, right, if I was to go back and do it again, I would do it differently, right? I would actually set up the framework first and have those people in place and then build the business around that. Sort of did it the other way around, which is fine. But, when people say they want to start a business, I get them to have a reality check around running a business, right? Making sure you got the right capital, make sure you got the right team around you, and your resource for success, rather than doing it on the fly.
What are you talking about, Marianna? I don't know about you, but I'm working right now. This is it. We're in business.
Yeah, we are in business, right? We are in business. Absolutely. Right?
Great. So you obviously did say these, certain things that need to be put in place. Now, many people would feel like having maybe a first aid certification or mental first aid, mental health first aid is just yet another compliance request. Like you keep, sort of referring to. Why should anybody care beyond the certificate, of getting this?
Because it makes a huge difference to that person. So if you look at it from a compliance perspective, you're just ticking a box, right? But I want you to think a little bit bigger than that, right? And that's when I'm talking to employers, is what is the impact of not giving your team the skill set to manage a situation? Okay, so what is the real cost, right? What is the real cost of not providing first aid? So it's fine until something happens. But when it happens, there's a ripple effect that not only impacts the person who's injured, but the people around it. It impacts your business, it impacts your brand, right? Your ability to manage a situation is part of your character as a business, right? So if you, one of my first customers that I got called up for was a cafe. And you would say, and the cafe called me because they had an incident where a customer was choking on something, and none of their staff were trained. Okay? None of their staff, right? None of their staff were trained. So you had a situation where one of your customers was choking. You had staff running around panicking, right? Not knowing what to do, who to call, didn't know where the first aid kit was. You had customers watching this happen around them, right? So the person's fine, they call the ambulance, it's okay. But now you have staff who are now traumatised, thinking, what am I going to do if it happens again? You have customers who now don't feel safe that if something was to happen to them in that premises, that the staff would know what to do, right? And then you have the psychological impact that some of your staff will be traumatised. So if you had trained your staff, right, they would have known, they would have still panicked a little bit because that's just a normal emotion, but they would have kicked into action. They would have got the help. They would have known what to do with their customers, right? And that would have been a totally different experience for everyone, right? So that's the story I tell when people say, oh, I know I need to do it, I don't have time. And I say, I don't want to be the person that gives you doom stories, right? I don't want to be that person, but I want to show you that you think it's not important and it's just another bureaucratic tick box. It actually impacts life. That was a person who was choking, right? That was a person that was choking, right? And there's been lots of stories over the years about where people made an impact because they knew exactly what to do. They maybe didn't even do it perfectly, but because they'd been trained, they knew exactly what to do. And it made a positive impact to that person, someone else's life. Like we're talking about saving lives. It's tick a box, but you could save a life. Right?
And thank you so much for that. I mean, obviously, me being a marketer now, I'll be looking at that scenario and saying it doesn't end there. everybody who is in that restaurant is probably carrying some sort of a mobile device or some sort of information that they will then pass on to somebody else, and the negative influence that just comes out of not having looked into that, the PR nightmare that emanates from maybe, just having time with, your expertise would have saved them a great deal and things of that nature. So things like that, once it's up there, you can't stop it. And once it's on the internet, it's etched in stone. You can't delete it.
But that's exactly right. Like, it's such a small investment, but it has a really long impact. Like when I do training, right, when we do me and my trainers and I do the training, one of the things we say is, I want to train you and I hope you never have to use this, right? I hope you never have to use this. But I know that if you get confronted with something at work, could be at home, could be in the community, right? That I sort of say my docile tones will go, remember Dr. Zach BC, right? You'll remember, like you'll forget, like you'll go, I'll never remember this, but I can assure you in an emergency, your brain will remember the training that you got and you will go into autopilot and you will be able to, impact someone's life, right? My tagline is it saves lives, and it really does, right? It's a life skill.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. Even you talking about that, I actually just remembered, I don't know if I got this correct, from a TV show, the whole CPR thing, the keep staying alive, that song that
apparently there's a whole YouTube channel. I don't want to go because I reckon there's like hundreds of songs you can do CPR to, right? I'm not going because it'd be like a rabbit hole for me. And I do a lot of training with parents, right? And yeah. I do these workshops with parents, so we give them the skills to manage. Parents are always scared about, what if my child chokes, all that. So we do these workshops that is funded through councils,
right?
And I say to them, I've got bad news for you. It's no longer Staying Alive. It's Baby Shark. So Baby Shark, yeah. Baby Shark, so the rhythm is enough. So if you can't remember Staying Alive because you're too young now to know what the song Staying Alive,
yeah,
it's Baby Shark. So, and apparently one of Taylor Swift songs is, I'm not going to go have a look, but one of her songs you can do CPR to. So, oh my God. That's a whole different podcast. We can do a podcast on CPR.
On those particular. But where I'm tying this up to, because you said you will remember when the time comes, you know what I mean? Because if you just have that going, yes, it's information that you might not be able to use right now, but who doesn't know? Baby shark, baby shark, baby shark. I grew up around that. That was me, COVID, Baby Shark. Oh, there you go. So absolutely. But I think from all of that, you've gone from obviously delivering courses for courses' sake to actually creating transformations. Could you maybe walk us through what actually changed, maybe in your teaching style or your approach, or maybe the mindset that comes with this?
That's tricky. So I just don't want to deliver the content, right? So one of the things that I do that's really different is if I'm talking to a client, right, about, let's talk about first aid, right? If I'm talking, why did they call us, right? What was the catalyst that they called us? And I want it to be because I've got to deliver to the curriculum because it's an accredited course, right? It's set up by ASCA, we've got to meet some criteria. But where I think we make a difference is what's the thing that you called us for? Let's address that, right? What's the injuries in the workplace? Because, first aid and mental health first aid actually are interlinked,
Okay.
right? So if you manage both situations, you're actually empowering your teams to know, like, to feel safer at work, right? That I have an employer that's willing to invest in this. So my role as the founder of this business is to help employers understand the why, right? What is, like, yes, we will tick a box. That's important, right? We'll tick that box, but there's other whys, right? So the penny drop that I can make a difference by, showing employers and organisations the value behind this for the holistic health of their teams, right? It's a really intrinsic way to look at first aid. It's more than just ticking the box because the government says you've got to have a certain amount of first aid people. It really makes a huge difference to your business, and it sends a really important message to your staff that they are valued, right? And that you're willing to teach them skills that we hope they'll never have to apply, but they have that in their toolbox if they ever need to use it at work, at home, in the community.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for elaborating that, because let's just use the example of the restaurant that you were talking about earlier, because, let's say incident happens. Each and every one of the people that are within that vicinity are going to need mental health first aid. Obviously that needs to be imparted immediately, because, like you did say, it is going to traumatize them. And nowadays we are also facing a scenario where our phones have become so open to the world that we don't know what people are being exposed to and how they're being attacked or whatever happening to them there. Now, you've seen, obviously, in the work that you're doing, workplaces are silently struggling with these mental health challenges. And I would think, especially here in Victoria, where people were locked down for quite a while, it's becoming apparent that people can't handle the now stress of this. Now, what's the biggest misconception that most leaders still have about mental health, especially in the workplace, that maybe you'd want to debunk today?
That their performance issues are not about performance. It's that people are struggling with potentially some mental health issues that show up in the workplace. And let me give you an example. The person that doesn't turn up to work, it's not because they don't want to come to work. They actually mentally and physically can't get out of bed, right? And this conversation starts in their head to say, I'll miss today, and that was easy. And then tomorrow I don't go into work and no one called me. And then, so there's this, again, in the same way that first aid ripples through an organisation, so does mental health and being able to provide mental health first aid. Mental health first aid is about connecting with people and giving people the confidence that when someone says they're not okay, how do you handle it, right? And it's not rocket science. You just got to listen to the person, right? So, when someone comes up, we have all this, in my training I talk about, we have all this language that we use. So you and I will pass each other in the corridor and I will say, Prosper, how are you going? And keep walking. I don't actually give you an opportunity for you to say, actually, I'm not, just stop because you wanted to talk. And if you say to me, oh, actually, I'm not good, I don't actually know how to respond. So if we train our staff, I can have that conversation with you, right? Right? And I can give you access to resources where you can go get help, right? No employer wants to have unhealthy people, whether physically or psychologically. And mental health is the same as if I break a leg. Now, let me give you an example if I can.
Yes.
If I had a work injury where I broke my foot, right? So I broke my arm, right? So I took a week off work because but I came back. When I'm going to open the door, right? When I'm going to open the door, there'll be someone there who's going to open the door for me because they can see that my arm is still bandaged. And they'll say, Marianna, can I help you to your desk? Do you want me to go grab you your coffee? I've got you this thing so you can keep typing, or I've got you a stand-up desk. Like, all these things are put in place, right? If I tell you that I have a mental illness, like a diagnosed illness, I'm going to avoid you like the plague, right? I actually want people to know that mental illness is actually quite common. Like 1 in 5 people will have experienced mental illness, right? And if we handle it if we're able to teach our staff how to have these conversations, we can actually prevent it or reduce it. It's really powerful stuff. Like, little things that we do in the organisation has a huge impact, right? Remember, people want to be connected and valued. And that's what happens in the mental health space. It's when, and the pressure that we're all under financial pressure, and some people are more resilient to it and some people are not. So it will manifest differently for different people, but some initial conversations could make a huge difference to someone's, same as first aid, right? Have a huge impact on their life. Just stop. We want to teach people in mental health first aid is stop and actually listen to people when they're talking to you. Just don't, when we say, oh, we're busy, right? Ask the next question. Is there anything I can do? Right? Tell me more. And people need an opportunity to walk through it. That's all.
Now, Marianna, let's put this into a reference point where people can actually see. What's worse, telling somebody you've got a mental health problem or coughing during COVID?
Ooh. What's worse for the person or the everyone around? That's
the people around them. Like with the way
I think it'd be worse. I think it'd be worse if you said you had a mental illness. But I actually say it's if you get diagnosed with a mental illness, that's actually really good, because that means you're actually getting help, right? If you don't get help, it's just going to get worse, and people are afraid to say that they're struggling. Right? They mask it. That person who's aggressive in the workplace is probably got some stuff happening that they're not coping with, and that's how it manifests in the workplace. Right?
No, Marianna. I mean, obviously, I'm sort of like a migrant into this culture, and there's this whole sentiment in the Australian way of being that should be all right, mate. And in some sort of places they say, just drink a bag of cement so you can stiffen up and things like that. How is that as a cultural norm really worsening the situation?
So do you remember before COVID, there used to be some medication that said just soldier on, right?
Yeah.
I think now the culture's changed. I think
Okay.
it's actually we actually don't want people to soldier on. We want people to get help where they need to get help. And being martyrs doesn't, being a martyr at work, it doesn't help anyone. Because it potentially is masking someone who's really struggling, but they're trying to overwork to compensate. They just need some help, right? And there's lots of help. And I'm like, doesn't mean you'll end up talking to a psychiatrist, right? We're not talking, there's lots of things that organisations can do. Lots of, there's personal accountability, there's wellness programs. There's lots of stuff that you can do. Doesn't necessarily always mean that you'll end up, seeing a psychiatrist. That's not what we're aiming for. We're about opening the dialogue so that people have an avenue to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you almost were about to say there's also the online prosperity show where people can actually listen to conversations like this and know, hey, help is at bay. Right. Now, you obviously are helping organizations, you're helping them build resilience, confidence, and psychological safety. If maybe somebody in these sort of institutions is watching this right now, what is it that they can walk away with? And what is it that you're actually offering that they can consider to help their people with?
To have a conversation with me or similar providers about how they can remove the stigma around mental health in the workplace, give things that you can do within the workplace that there's lots of strategies. There's lots of training, but there's lots of strategies that they can adopt that can improve, the overall health of their teams, right? Because remember, a healthy team. Let me put my commercial hat on. Let me put my business hat on. If I have a team that are happy and healthy, my productivity improves. So if my productivity improves, it impacts my profitability, right? And I become a workplace where people want to stay. So my brand reputation, right? If I have a toxic workplace, there's a brand component to it, has a productivity cost to it. So as business owners, we need to deal with this. We need to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. And especially in today's age where if something gets online, people could automatically cancel you or boycott your business or, you know what I mean? Things like that. It's
such a small investment when the stakes could be potentially quite high. Do you know what I mean? So yes, you'll tick a box, but it's not about the box. It's about the impact.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, obviously, where can people go to on the internet, Marianna, so that they can see your offerings and maybe connect with you and ask a few questions before they fully engage?
Sure, absolutely. So it's growthtraininggroup.com.au. That is our website. It has lots of resources, lots of courses on there. Reach out to me, and there's the ability to have a strategy meeting with me to understand what's happening in your business and how we can potentially help.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for giving us all this information. Now, Baby Shark is stuck in my head. I don't know what.
Sorry. No, we're both going to go on the YouTube channel and look up all the CPR songs, eh?
Absolutely. But Marianna, thank you so much. I mean, obviously you've taken us on this, well laid out journey of you wanting to be a teacher, but now you've ended up becoming a teacher, and it's a whole 25 years of you discovering yourself and figuring it all out. Now, there's a question that I always ask people, now that obviously you've gone through all these industries and you've had to build on your own and things of that nature. With the advent of AI coming into everything that we're doing today, how are you taking it? Is it friend or is it foe?
Oh, he's my best friend. He's my best friend. So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing about AI. We have to embrace it. It's here. It's not going away, right? But what it's going to let us do is connect with people. It's going to give us more time, and it'll allow us to actually connect in real time with people, right? So I say embrace it, right? Embrace it. It's my best friend, and it will increase our productivity and give us back time that we lost, So like it's not going to take over the world. It's going to make us better human beings, which is weird because it's artificial intelligence, but it's going to allow us to reconnect with people, not being tied down with processes and data and all of that. So embrace it.
Absolutely. And I kind of feel like it really alleviates a lot of the mental health that is happening, because people can actually articulate whatever it is that they want and keep asking the questions. But what I'm afraid of, though, is people that are writing songs using AI. What if they write a song that cannot be used for CPR, Marianna?
I know. I know. Now I'm shattered. And
Absolutely.
Well, what if we go and write some more songs
More songs. Great. So, now, Marianna, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spend with us on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience and what it is that you're doing to people. You are single-handedly giving people back their life. And not a lot of people can say that in a physical and visceral type of way. So thank you so much.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed it. So I hope your audience got a lot out of it. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Now, like I said, the earworm of Baby Shark is now stuck, and there's going to be a lot of people commenting all the songs in the comments. And I'd love to hear the songs that you come across, if you're watching this right now, that you come across that can also be used as a CPR way. Not only is it fun to obviously talk about this with Marianna, but it could save a life. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. And it is an incredible journey. I mean, you haven't just built a business, Marianna, you've literally built a movement that if people really follow this through, it's not about compliance. It's not about ticking a box. It's literally about saving their business, their employees, and those that patronize their business.
Absolutely.
And I think that, you've actually proven to us that compliance doesn't matter if your people don't feel safe, supported, or seen. So for those that are watching right now, if today's episode maybe stirred something in you, or if you caught yourself thinking, whoa, I think my team needs this, don't just let this moment pass you by. I encourage you to reach out to Growth Training Group for their first aid and also their mental health first aid training that actually just goes beyond, as Marianna says, ticking boxes to actually transforming your people. And before you leave, if you're working within a business that hasn't presented this to you, why don't you slide this video to your leaders or anybody who is in your charge? Because one day it could be you, it could be your loved one, or it could be them if they don't know how to act or how to react, especially when it comes to matters like this. And while you're at it, make sure you subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show, because on the next episode, we're going to be diving into ideas that will help you build a happier, healthier existence. I don't know what you're going to do with this information today, but baby shark, do, 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 do. Bye for now.